many people saw Lamont Roach as a huge underdog, a big mismatch, and it did not go according to plan. And a lot of questions are being asked about Gervonta Tank Davis.
He was in the inside exchanging punches with Gervonta Davis and getting the better of it too.
That's the big question. Was it a knockdown?
And if it was rightfully called a knockdown, Lamont Roach would be the new champion at 135. Honestly, I might look into trying to overturn the call.
I can say with confidence that Gervonta Davis lost against Lamont Roach.
What does this mean for Lamont's future? Because in the eyes of the people, he beat a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. Even Shakur Stevenson went on Twitter and said, hey, if you don't get that Tank rematch, I'm right here.
Could one make the point that maybe Gervonta Davis has 1 foot in, 1 foot out?
Let's just forget about this fight. Let's just go for Shakur instead.
Welcome back to another episode of The Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's video, we'll be going over Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach's controversial majority draw, as well as breaking down some of the other fights, and as well as maybe talking about the return of Ryan Garcia for the upcoming May card. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Lastly, we're trying to build up a community on Discord, and you guys joining would be greatly appreciated. But first things first, diving right into the episode, Gervonta Davis returned for the first time since his fight against Frank Martin, taking on 130 champion Lamont Roach in a fight that many people saw Lamont Roach as a huge underdog, a big mismatch, and one that the odds were heavily in favor for Gervonta. It was like a minus.
I think minus 1,600.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So a lot of expectation. People were expecting Tank to steamroll Lamont Roach, to knock him out, get him out of there, and then continue on his retirement tour. But this past weekend was not the case, and it did not go according to plan. And a lot of questions are being asked about Gervonta Tank Davis.
Yeah, this was definitely not in the script. I mean, even us three, the last episode, we said, I mean, it's going to be an easy Gervonta Davis victory. I was expecting a knockout, and the knockout did not come. In fact, it came a competitive, a very close fight. And a lot of people are saying a robbery. A lot of people are saying that Lamont Roach won. And honestly, I think he did win, especially if you factor in that knockdown that was not counted. I think Lamont Roach was taking the fight. So crazy turn of events. Gervonta Davis's name is now being questioned all throughout the boxing community.
Yeah, not a very good look for Gervonta Davis. Lamont Roach, I just want to highlight a little bit. Lamont Roach did a pretty good job. He stuck to his game plan. He made the fight very difficult for Gervonta Davis. He not only did he frustrate him on multiple occasions, but he was also able to clip him multiple times as well with that right hand. So yeah, props to Lamont Roach. I mean, I don't know where he goes from here, but I know now, like, he has a fan in me for sure.
Yeah, this wasn't like a fight where Gervonta Davis performed bad and, you know, that's why it was competitive. This was a fight where Lamont Roach stepped up. He showed the level that he's at. I mean, I was super impressed. He was in the inside exchanging punches with Gervonta Davis. Yeah. That's dangerous. Like, that's not an easy task to do, because Tank, we know, he's perfect counterpuncher, and he hits extremely hard. So for him to be in the inside exchanging combinations and getting the better of it too, that I was really impressed.
Yeah, if you look at the CompuBox punch stats after the fight, Roach outlanded and outthrew Gervonta Davis. Of course, the percentage-wise, it favors more Gervonta, but it goes to show that the output, I mean, he threw 400 punches compared to Tank's 279. So the volume, the output that Roach had, I mean, he, like you said, he did a brilliant job of stepping up to the occasion. I mean, he's never been at that stage in his career. First mega fight of his as a professional, but he showed why he is a champion at 130, and I think definitely his stock has completely risen up, and he might be one of, if not the best 130 fighter on the planet if he goes back down to the division. I mean, that 130 division, it's not too bad. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not the best. But yeah, Lamont Roach definitely made a name for himself for this fight. One thing though is that a lot of people, you know, when you watch a Gervonta Davis fight, you always expect him to start slow, to maybe, you know, just download the data, calculate, and then second half starts, and then that's where he erupts and wakes up and knocks you out. And he's been doing that to nearly every single opponent that he's fought. But this fight was, you know, it surprised me in the fact that Lamont Roach still, the way he was able to, you know, he, of course, the opponent always in those early rounds kind of pressures Gervonta Davis, kind of walks him down. But Lamont Roach was doing that, yes, but it was so calculated. It was very smart. He made it really close, and you could tell that he was thinking in there. And he had Gervonta Davis, even after midway through the fight, thinking like, "Hey, yo, like this guy can. I can't go too crazy, or else he's gonna catch me with that right hook."
Yeah, he showed extremely good patience. I mean, calculated, intelligent pressure, not just going forward. Because Gervonta, I mean, he loves those fighters that go forward and start just throwing random punches, like Ryan Garcia. You know, Ryan Garcia got a little too overexcited. He started throwing crazy combinations. He got clipped just like that. If Lamont Roach would have done that, he would have definitely gotten knocked out easy. But no, he stayed in the Philly shell, very tight guard, going forward, being very patient, and Tank could not get his rhythm. So it was extremely good game plan, and that's why I believe he's still a champion at 130, but I think he's a big player at 135 now because even Shakur Stevenson went on Twitter and said, "Hey, if you don't get that Tank rematch, I'm right here." and Roach himself said in the post-fight press conference, "Yeah, if we can't get that Tank rematch, I'm going for Shakur Stevenson." So I don't even think he's gonna go down to 130. I think he realizes he made a big name for himself. People are paying attention to him now, and the 135 champions want a piece of him. So he's like, I'm staying here, and I think that's a good move.
Yeah, this fight week surprised me a lot. I mean, just in regards with Lamont Roach, just the way he was oozing with confidence, man. He was so calm, cool, and collected during the whole press conference tour, during the whole fight week, even during the weigh-ins. Like, he didn't really let Gervonta Davis scare him, you know, because I feel like Gervonta Davis has a pretty good
That boy got aura, bro.
Yeah, he does, and he's always able to kind of like get underneath the skin of his opponents. And I feel like this time Lamont really didn't. He was like a hard shell, you know. And I think one of the things that I believe helped him was the fact that he had already fought Tank. Granted, it was in the amateurs, and he lost twice. But I feel like on some level that kind of helped him a little bit, because I feel like at the beginning of the fight, he really started off really slow as well. The first 2 rounds, the output from both fighters was super low, and I think that was calculated. I think he did it just to kind of like give Tank the initiative, because for the most part, like how you guys said, Tank's opponents, they feel like they start throwing, they feel like, oh, Tank isn't responding, so let me continue to press the action a little bit more. I feel like once you give Tank the initiative, he doesn't really know how to take it, because he is such a counterpuncher.
Yeah, that's I mean, even in the first, I'd go so far as to say like the first half of the fight, it was relatively uneventful. Very low output. Both guys very cautious, trying to like measure each other out. You know, Tank, he's been like this for his whole career. You know, he's a guy that doesn't throw a lot of output. Actually, it reminds me of in the fight week, he was being interviewed and they told him he only averages 32 punches a round. And he said himself, he's like, really? That low? He's like, I gotta throw more punches. Yeah, so you know, that's his style. You know, he doesn't throw a lot of punches. He waits for the counter. But Lamont Roach also, you know, very, very patient. This in the second half of the fight, and I feel like, in the second half of the fight, they started letting their hands go, and it started getting really, really good. So, I don't know. I just feel like Tank, he was not expecting such a close fight, such a good fight from Lamont Roach.
Well, now let's talk about the controversy in the aspect of the knockdown that was not counted a knockdown. 9th round. Tank goes down, right? Takes a knee, and then goes to his corner, gets a towel washed on his face, you know. And then Steve Willis, who's normally a very good referee, and he's also a veteran, and he's refed a bunch of these championship fights. Just tells him like, hey, when you do stuff like that, it kind of looks like a knockdown fight.
Yeah.
People on social media erupted. This is the biggest controversy of the fight. Not just the draw, because the draw was affected because of this of this call that Steve Willis allowed it to happen, which Loki, it's madness.
Yeah. Listen, I like Steve Willis, okay? He's one of those referees. He's very his face, you could just tell he loves his job. You know, he's always invested into the fight. But when he was refereeing this fight, it was bad. I'm going to be honest. You know, there was a lot of fouls that were going on, specifically with Tank hitting below the belt. He didn't really call that much attention, didn't really scold him. And then the cherry on top, you know, there's a clear knockdown. I mean, Gervonta gets hit with the jab right in the eye. He takes a knee, and Steve Willis starts counting like as he should, but then he kind of hesitates. He doesn't really know what to do, and he's like, okay, whatever, just fight. This was a knockdown. I mean, it's clearly a knockdown. He went down from a jab. He wasn't hurt, but he went down from a jab. It should have been called a knockdown, and if it was rightfully called a knockdown, Lamont Roach would be the new champion at 135. So I would be extremely pissed if I was Roach. Honestly, I might look into trying to overturn the call, because I think I think it could be overturned. So I don't know. It was crazy. It was rightfully called out by the boxing community.
Well, we also forget to also mention, besides the knee, his corner. You know, they got the towel and they did work on him. You can't do that mid round. You cannot be doing that. And if you want, I mean, that's even more a stronger case for Lamont to appeal it, saying, hey, like, okay, not only did he take a knee, but his corner also did work on him mid rounds, and that's not allowed. I mean, he's got a case for overturning it, and I think it's one that he should probably take. Appeal this to the commission, because everyone online was losing their heads over this call from Steve Willis, who's normally a good referee, solid, but yeah, definitely a huge mistake by him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like all of social media, like, that's the big question that people on social media are asking for. Was it a knockdown? And you know, just from the top of my head, I can think of two different fights. Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. Similar situation where Joe Joyce hits Daniel in the eye, waits a few seconds, takes the knee, and then it's kind of a knockdown, right? And then Daniel just kind of quits right then and there. But every time a fighter puts his knee on the canvas, that's a legitimate knockdown. Whatever, you can't say that's not a knockdown because, oh, Tank didn't really get hit, or Tank this just had grease in his hair or whatever. That's not it. I'm a huge boxing fan. I'm a super huge boxing fan, and I feel like
no way.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, one thing that I like, so I'm able to see a fight, whether it's my favorite fighter or a fighter that I don't like, through an unbiased lens. Saturday night, I can say with confidence that Gervonta Davis lost against Lamont Roach. He was granted the draw. He was granted not being knocked down when he took the knee. And he was granted the not being disqualified for his corner.
Working on it.
Working
mid-round,
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, Gervonta Davis did not win this fight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was... I think he didn't win either. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like, it's just... Lamont Roach did a good fight, like a great fight, you know, and he beat Tank usually where Tank is his best, and that's why the whole boxing community is kind of wondering what the hell happened, you know, what's going on, because Gervonta Davis was a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, and Lamont Roach was relatively obscure for the casual boxing fans. You know, we obviously knew him as a champion at 130. You know, he beat Luis Hector Garcia.
Whooped him.
Yeah. You know, 12 rounds, and which was an ex-opponent of Tank, but Tank knocked him out easy. So we were, you know, everyone was kind of expecting, like, this was not going to be a very close fight. And Lamont Roach pulls it out with a fantastic performance, but, you know, he gets the majority draw. So now we're kind of wondering, what the hell does this mean for Gervonta Davis's future? Because he said he was going to retire this year. And what does this mean for Lamont's future? Because he basically, in the eyes of the people, he beat a top 10 pound for pound fighter. What's going on?
Well, I mean, didn't in the post-fight press conference, didn't Gervonta say something about that he's thinking about prolonging his career now that this fight happened?
Yeah, I believe he said he has 4 more fights now left in him.
Well, one of them would be the rematch, I would assume. So, yeah, definitely. Like you said, there's a lot of questions on Gervonta Davis. And look, the thing that I liked about this fight, though, was that it kind of gave somewhat of a blueprint or a foundation to how a Tank against Shakur fight would kind of look like. Because I'm telling you right now, Shakur, man, everyone, first off, Shakur, he predicted it. He said this is a 50-50 fight. And people online slandered him. They're like, you don't know nothing, you're a runner, blah blah. Shakira Twitterson, they're just out here fucking calling them all these names. But then what happened? The fight was very close and competitive. So Shakur won, boxing fan 0. Second off, you see the way the fight started, very cautious from both fighters. Shakur is also a cautious motherfucker. So it's gonna be a fight featuring Gervonta and Shakur. It's gonna kind of look like that in the first half. They're both gonna be trying to feel each other out. Not many output from both fighters, and it won't be until the second half where we're gonna start seeing the difference. And I think that Shakur has better skills than Lamont Roach. He's a better offensive and a better defensive fighter than Lamont Roach. And I just say, man, he's gonna fight him not like Lamont in the aspect of being in the pocket. He's just gonna box him just to get points. And I think he has it, and he has enough skills to beat Gervonta Davis. If the same Gervonta Davis that pulled up this past Saturday night pulls up against Shakur Stevenson, Shakur's gonna beat him.
Well, I don't know about the Shakur has a better offense than Lamont Roach, but listen, the styles make fights at the end of the day, and Lamont Roach and Shakur both have completely different styles. I definitely think Shakur has better skills, better boxing technique, better boxing IQ, higher boxing IQ. But I definitely have to reevaluate this fight. I'm gonna be honest, because I was one that was saying Tank wins this fight. And he wins this fight pretty comfortably. I wouldn't say, I don't know about a knockout or anything like that, but I was definitely leaning more towards Tank winning this fight, a unanimous decision. After this fight with Lamont Roach, I gotta reevaluate. I gotta watch it back. I gotta see what Tank did wrong. I gotta see how Lamont Roach was able to, stop Gervonta Davis from being the Gervonta Davis that we usually see. So I don't know. I can't place the prediction right now, but I think this fight got a lot more interesting.
Yeah, for me too. I mean, I wouldn't say. I feel like before this fight with Tank and Roach, I mean, when you were to ask me who do you got against Tank and Shakur, I would lean towards Tank, and I still lean towards Tank even after this fight with Roach. But I feel like it's a little bit more towards like the center. I mean, there's a few things that just kind of like stand out from the top of my head. One, styles. Shakur is a southpaw. But also, 2, is that I feel like Lamont Roach has kind of like a chin, because he was able to take all of Gervonta Davis's power, and not only that, but dish it back as well, and just stand in the pocket. Shakur isn't going to stand in the pocket. Like, he's just going to run around and, yeah, I mean, I mean, again, styles make fight. Styles make fight. And then
Shakur is going to beat him by unanimous decision.
No, you just said Shakur. You just glazed Shakur. That's what it is.
No. And then the other thing is that, like, I don't know about Gervonta Davis's mental state. I mean, could one make the point that maybe Gervonta Davis has 1 foot in, 1 foot out? Because, I mean, it doesn't go very well from what I've seen, experienced just from boxers saying, oh, I'm going to retire very soon. I have just 2 more fights in me, and then I'm going to retire. I feel like sometimes boxers kind of get into their head a little bit that, they basically have 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Well, I saw this, going around social media saying something along those lines, kind of giving some slack for Gervonta Davis' performance, saying, oh, he wasn't taking Lamont Roach seriously, or maybe, he's talking about retiring, so he wasn't taking the training camp completely serious. Listen, we have no evidence for this, right? In fact, we have some evidence to say he was taking it pretty serious. First of all, he's not drinking as much as he used to. You know, he's not blowing up crazy after fights like he used to. He also weighed extremely light this fight, 133.8. What he was in the weigh-ins. I've never seen Gervonta be that low under the weight limit. So I don't know if we can. I don't know. I feel like it's just like an excuse for Tank Davis to be like, you know, he didn't perform his best, so maybe there was something wrong with his training camp or something like that. I don't see any evidence for that, so I'm not going to claim that.
For me, I'm not saying that he didn't look or he didn't train the best. I feel like this was one of his better training camps. Like what you said, he weighed in at 133, and I was kind of like surprised that he did that, because that's not normally Tank's style. He normally just weighs in kind of like at the weight limit. I'm just talking more about his mental state. You know, I'm pretty sure he did everything right. He never said that he had any injuries or he didn't have a really good training camp. He had the best training camp. I just really think it's kind of like a mental thing for him at this point.
You know, maybe actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it might have been actually the grease that was like sweating down to his
It could be, man. I mean, we just have to ask him. But yeah, Gervonta Davis clearly did not have the best night this past weekend. And Lamont Roach, his stock is way up. A lot of people, like you said, the public believes that Lamont Roach got the win and got robbed off of making history, you know, becoming the 2-time world champion and beating one of boxing's prime superstars in Gervonta Davis. So very interesting to see what happens next. Like we mentioned, we probably might see a rematch featuring Lamont Roach and Gervonta.
Well, that's what I'm interested in, because I mean, in the post-fight press conference, they also talked about this. Tank said he'd prefer the rematch, but he doesn't believe that's actually going to be next.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel he has bigger just money option fights rather than a Lamont Roach rematch, which would actually be, I mean, he sold out the entire arena. So Gervonta Davis by himself is already a big draw. But yeah, I mean, if we were to fight Shakur, if we were to fight maybe even, I feel like Keyshawn would be a good one too. But like if he fights another champion at 135, it's more specifically Shakur, that's gonna be a fight that's gonna generate a lot more attraction and a lot more revenue for both fighters. So I feel like it would make more financial sense for him to at least fight Shakur next rather than rematch Lamont Roach and kind of prolong his imminent retirement. But
yeah, because this was supposed to be a stepping stone for him.
Yeah.
You know, that's why, you know, this draw, which takes away his undefeated streak, kind of muddies the waters for Tank. You know, it's kind of like the fans don't really know what they want. I mean, some are wanting a rematch. Some say whatever. let's just forget about this fight. Let's just go for Shakur instead. You know, it's kind of weird.
Well, also I think it's interesting because Shakur, he might have sorry, excuse me. There was rumors that he hurt his hand against Padley during the Saudi Arabia card. And if that's the case, I don't know if it's confirmed or not by him or by anyone close to Shakur's team, but let's say that's the case, that Shakur did hurt his hand. That means he's going to have to take some time off to recover. And then that's going to end up pushing, you know, a Gervonta Davis fight or showdown with him, not probably until like late summer, early fall. So, I mean, if Gervonta Davis is really set on having 4 more fights and one of them being the Lamont Roach rematch, why not do the rematch and wait as kind of like a, you know, to fill up the gap as he waits for Shakur Stevenson to heal up if he does have a hand injury?
Yeah, maybe that might be the move, honestly, because I think I'd want to see the rematch, honestly, because I mean, there's just so much unknown. You know, I want to see that rematch. I want to see more of Lamont Roach. You know, he showed a great performance. So let's see him run it back against Tank in New York, maybe.
Yeah, and I feel like out of everyone who is happy about just this outcome is probably Floyd Mayweather. You know, Floyd Mayweather was once promoting, or he was underneath the banner of Gervonta Davis was underneath the banner of Floyd, and now you know, they've gone their separate ways, and I know there's a little bit of a tension between the two, and so I'm almost certain that Floyd is probably ecstatic. Yeah.
Who knows? Floyd be doing some random stuff now.
Nah, he be petty as hell. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, I mean, shit. we had the also on the card we had the 140. Yeah, actually the 140 division this past weekend was moving crazy, man.
Crazy.
We had 2 world title shots or 2 world title bouts and a title eliminator at the 140, which it's kind of crazy seeing how active the division was this past weekend. But I mean, we had the co-main event featuring Gary Russell absolutely destroy, obliterate El Rayo Valenzuela, and I'm going to say, let me emphasize it more. Obliterate. He probably 12-0 this man.
No, he definitely 12-0'd him.
Oh my! It was one of the worst ass whoopings I've seen in a long time. First off, so I'm surprised Rayo didn't get dropped at all. I mean, he's got a granite chin for taking that whooping. He took it like a man. But Gary Russell definitely showed out and showed that he does belong as one of the top dogs at 140. And I saw a lot of people kind of shitting on Rayo, saying, Rayo was out here talking about, I want all the big names at 140.
Yeah.
I want all these big names. And he gets obliterated by Gary Russell like that. Even though Gary Russell, for the longest time before he lost against Puello, was considered one of the best fighters at the division. And that Puello fight kind of did hurt his stock a little bit. But he came back in brutal fashion. He fought like a man possessed. The performance he put out this past weekend against Rayo was elite.
Yeah, and first things first, I was completely shocked that Russell got a second opportunity for a world title back to back. I mean, he literally just lost to Puello for a world title, and for some reason Rayo handpicks him. Hey, I want to fight you, and he gives him another shot. And this time Gary completely took full advantage of this opportunity and completely destroyed Rayo Valenzuela. And I was a little sad. You know, it was just such an ass whooping. Like, I don't know what Rayo was doing. He did nothing this whole fight, like, at all. And he just took the whooping. I guess he kind of took it like a man, I guess. You know, he didn't go down. Yeah. He didn't get stopped. He didn't quit. But it was not a good sight to see.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised, one, when the fight was made, because, I mean, as someone who, you know, Rayo Valenzuela became world champion just in the fight previous, I mean, typically, I mean, the public wouldn't really be mad if he handpicked someone who, you know, isn't that high of a caliber fighter. And then it was a surprise to me when he said that, or when he was the one who handpicked this dude. And then the last thing that kind of surprised me was the fact that he said that he didn't see anything special in Gary. When this fight was first made, I was like, holy crap, Rayo has a very difficult fight ahead of him, because Gary is just a guy who has unlimited amount of stamina. He is a guy who just continues to go forward, and he just doesn't stop throwing. And he has power in both hands, and he's a southpaw as well. So, and he's being trained underneath the guidance of his older brother. So, I mean, he has a lot riding for him. You know, he lost, Russell lost in his last fight, but I mean, it was a close fight. I mean, it was competitive, but he lost. And so that didn't take anything away from Gary and, you know, the skills and just the talent that he really possesses. And so, yeah. And I think to top it all off, just the way Rayo fought, like, he didn't just decide at one point, be like, you know what, I'm just going to stand my ground. If I go down, I go down. Or I'm going to at least try to win one round. Because in my scorecard, Gary just clean sheet, just won every single round.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I felt like Rayo fought way too tense. It felt like he knew that if he got a good shot on Gary, that Gary was going to come back with like 4 or 5 different shots, and they're going to be solid shots too. I think Gary Russell had definitely intimidated El Rayo, and I mean, Rayo's output during the fight was atrocious. Did nothing. I mean, I saw someone say the only highlight Rayo got was him landing the jab on Gary. And if that's the only highlight you're able to get, man, I mean, for a 12-rounder, and you're the champion too, I mean, everyone's super mad at Rayo for the way he fought. Very disappointing, especially the fact that, you know, he's backed up by RGBA right now, but he was talking mad shit about Team Benavides, about Benavides Seniors more specifically. So people are just coming at him right now based on his performance.
Yeah, and I think I saw one comment that kind of sums up the whole situation, is that Rayo outboxed Pitbull Cruz and then he thought that he was Floyd Mayweather. Because he fought a completely wrong game plan. You know, like you said, he was trying to outbox him and I felt like he was trying to like pick the one shot that he was just going to completely KO Gary Russell instead of trying to actually win some rounds, you know. And even once like after the halfway point of the fight where it was clear that, you know, he was going to need like a knockdown or something like that, he still didn't stand his ground. You know, he still didn't like try to fight his heart out, try to get a KO, even though he used to do that. Remember his fight against Edwin de los Santos? Excuse me. Edwin de los Santos, I mean, that fight was back and forth action. Edwin knocked him down. Rayo came back and knocked Edwin down. You know, that's what Rayo used to be. He used to get hit, get mad. Okay, let's go. Let's exchange some punches, because Rayo does hit hard and he's an explosive fighter. But this fight, you didn't see that. He was trying too much to be calculated. He was trying too hard to be a perfect boxer like Mayweather. It's like, man, you have great talents as a power puncher, as a person who throws a lot of punches, an explosive fighter. Utilize that. Instead, he was too busy in his head to just not let his hands go, where he was just getting whooped for 12 rounds straight. So I was completely disappointed by Valenzuela.
Well, now we got a new WBA champion. Gary Russell officially becomes a new champ at the 140. Prior to that, we had another world title bout at 140 featuring Alberto Puello as he took on Sander Martin. Now, I'm a big fan of Sander Martin. This is the man who defeated Mikey Garcia and who was, a lot of people believe, beat Teofimo Lopez. And not only do they believe he beat him, he dropped him. Yeah. He dropped him in the occasion. So Sander Martin has been on the receiving end of probably some controversial calls, and this fight was another one. A lot of people believe that Sander Martin came up on top, and I was rooting for him. I like Sander Martin, like I said. So he lost a split decision. Alberto Puello stays champion. And I wonder what's next for Sander Martin. I mean, we were looking at his record prior to the recording, and he has, like you said, like a Mexican record. He has like over 46 fights. Yeah. So he's had his time in the ring. So I want to see what else is up for him for at the 140, because there's a lot of moving big names there. Even if they're not champion, they're solid contenders, and Sander Martin is still one of the top guys there. So I want to see what's next for the guy.
Well, maybe Gary Russell will, after he wins the belt, maybe he's like, I'm gonna handpick Sander Martin. No, on a serious note, I mean, I don't know. This fight, it was very competitive, very competitive. Puello, he started off strong, but then in the middle round, Sander Martin came back with a vengeance, and he was looking really, really good. And then at the end, he let his foot off the gas. But also, Puello stepped up, and he was like, okay, let's go back. And that's why I think he won. I think he won because of the last championship rounds. He definitely finished stronger than Sander Martin. So, very, very tough fight. You know, I feel bad for Sander Martin. I was also a fan. I like Sander Martin, especially after that Teofimo, because I kind of felt like he got wronged. You know, he got a little wronged, so I was like, okay, I'm rooting for him. But, you know, this was a second shot at a title, and he lost once again. I don't know. Maybe he's gonna go back to Spain and try to build himself back up for another shot, but I kind of find that unlikely.
Yeah, man. I guess we're just like brothers, because I was also going for Sander Martin. Yeah, that's so funny. It doesn't matter who you put up Sander against. Sander's gonna put up a really good competitive fight. Whoever you put up against him. And so, yeah, I feel like you did a pretty good job of just kind of like recapping the whole fight. He did a pretty good job during like the middle portion, and then just kind of like towards the back end of the fight, just kind of let go of the gas a little bit. And I saw Puello just kind of take a little bit more control and be a little bit more aggressive. And I think at some point he even made Sander bleed from his nose. Really interesting. Just the whole landscape at 140. Just a whole bunch of different moving parts. Hopefully, maybe we can get a rematch between Puello and Gary.
Yeah, because I mean, now it'd be for unification. Yes. You know, and I'm kind of surprised that Puello beat Gary Russell. Honestly, you know, I'm sleeping on Puello, but He's got 2 title defenses now. Yeah. You know, so he beat Gary Russell, he beat Sander Martin. Those are some pretty good names. Yeah. You know, so maybe we are sleeping on him. You know, he's a very he's very strange to me. You know, because he doesn't have anything remarkable. He's not like a crazy good counter puncher. He doesn't have good power. He's not like great footwork or anything.
He's not fast either.
He's not particularly fast. I'd say the best thing in his arsenal is his jab, because his dimensions are very, very good, very long. You know, he's a very long fighter. But I just think he has the fundamentals great. You know, he's a fighter very, very tucked in, very solid defense, chin down, which I think helps him a lot. His chin down helps him a lot because he's able to avoid a lot of punches. But I don't know, he's kind of like the dark horse of the 140. Yeah. He doesn't have a big name, but hey, he keeps on getting these victories.
Yeah, two good names in his resume back to back also. So these are tough fights too. And yeah, I think people were saying that Gary Russell should say fuck it, let me go for unification next, get my lick back against Puello, and I think Puello would do it. I mean, because unification, big money right there. PBC would probably fund it too. Yeah. But yeah, so Alberto Puello came out on top over Sander Martin. Now Sander Martin is looking to maybe get his foot sometime soon back into the mix of a world title shot. But leaving the PBC zone, we're going over to the zone now. We had the return of the real boogeyman of the 140, the man whose name causes fear within the hearts of all his competitors. Subriel Matias returned once again for a world title eliminator against Gabriel Valenzuela, and he did what he does best: destroy. And boom, so Subriel Matias returned with a 8th-round stoppage over Valenzuela this past weekend as well, during the same time of the Gervonta and Roach card. And he did it. No, it was such an ass whooping, man. Such an ass whooping. I'm telling you, Matias is back.
Yo, if we thought that if we thought that Pablo was glazing Shakur, it's nothing in comparison to how he glazes Matias, bro.
Nah, bro, Matias, bro, give us all the champions, man. Give us Teofimo, give us Hitchens, give us Russell Puello.
What about Paro?
He's not a champion, so we don't talk about him. No, I mean, okay, so it was a world title eliminator for the IBF. IBF champion is Richardson Hitchens, and Hitchens, there's been the clip of him always goes around of him saying, "Oh, I would never fight Matias. I would never fight him," blah blah blah. And so now Matias is up there for a world title shot against Hitchens. So I need to see that fight.
Mm-hmm. Wait, did he not call him out too in the ring, or he called out someone?
Loki, I don't remember. I don't remember, but he's I mean, Matias, he's a new man, a new fighter. He's got the goatee also, and he still has that power in his hands, and he wants that title shot again. And I think he can I think he beats Hitchens, man.
Listen, stylistically, I think it's his best shot because Hitchens, he kind of does have some trouble when it comes to pressure fighters. You know, that Lemos fight was dangerously close. Yeah. I mean, dangerously close. You know, so very close fight. And then so now we got Matias, and that's his style. Matias, he takes a couple punches to give some in return, and he believes in his God-given power because he does have some power in those hands. You know,
all his wins are by knockout, man.
Yeah, I guess he does. Some good power, natural power. You know, it doesn't really look like he's like winging his shots. He's not like a fighter like Pitbull Cruz where you're like, oh, he throws hard, therefore he hits hard. No, Matias, he kind of just throws some punches, but you could tell they do some damage to his opponents. So it's a good win. He built himself back up. I respect that, and I believe because of that he deserves a title shot. So honestly, he might be Hitchens. I don't know. I'd have to really analyze this fight. But one thing is for sure, Matias is definitely a one-dimensional fighter.
No.
Look, I think so too. I mean, his opponent Valenzuela was ranked within the top 10 of that sanctioning body. So he's not a that opponent wasn't just a nobody, right? It was against a guy who was ranked. It was against a guy who should be there. and Matias made it look pretty easy. But there was some instances where, I'm just going based off on the fact that Matias's defense isn't really there, or it's really just non-existent. Like, his defense is just...
It's his head.
It's his head sometimes.
Yeah.
Like just the forehead. He kind of like puts his guard up a little bit and, just kind of takes the punches or whatever. And he just dishes it out. I feel like within the 4 champions, he could definitely beat 3 or give a tremendous fight to all 3. I mean, I feel like he would give a good fight to Richardson, Gary. That would be such a good fight. And then Lopez. I feel like the only guy that could possibly stop or beat Matias is Puello.
Whoa.
Because Puello's style, I'm just basing
Madness.
I'm just basing it off the fact that Lamont is a guy who doesn't really have that much power, was able to neutralize Matias just with this PD pat punches. I truly believe that possibly Puello could. I mean, he doesn't have anything, like we just said before, but he's able to pull these wins out against tough competition.
You're starting to sound a little bit like Pablo here with the Matias glaze.
He's a Puello glaze, bro.
Nah, listen, I think Teofimo beats him. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I think Teofimo beats him. I think way too explosive. Wait, the timing, the counter punches. Like you said, I mean, Matias, okay, he's a good fight. He's a solid fighter, right? He has great attributes like power specifically. But he doesn't have anything else besides that. He's a guy that's just going to follow you forward and, let his hands go. And his defense is this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, So I don't think he beats. He doesn't. I don't think he beats Teofimo. Maybe he might beat Russell, but if Russell's smart, I think Russell can outbox him because that's what it is with Matias. You just gotta outbox him. Use lateral movements. Make him turn him around, and he's not gonna be able to adjust. He's a fighter that needs you right in front of him so he can let his hands go.
Or just going backwards and him just following his opponent.
Yeah, that's exactly what Lamont did, and that's why he was able to become champion in Puerto Rico, in his own hometown. Yeah, so that was disrespectful from Lamont. So now Matias is back for vengeance, and he's looking for that IBF championship belt. But, the 140, like I mentioned, a lot of moving parts this past weekend, and we have some more moving parts coming up in May with Rehab season coming to New York, Times Square. We're officially getting 3 of the 140's most biggest stars, and some of the biggest stars in boxing. We have the return of Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, and now added to that list, Teofimo Lopez.
Well, very quickly, I think Ryan and Devin moved up to 147.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you're right.
So it's just Teofimo.
For Teofimo, yes, you're right. So Teofimo Lopez will be getting a fight at Rehab season, first time debut there, and he'll be taking on long-awaited opponent Arnold Barboza, who's also the interim champion as well. So he's finally... Barboza was praying for days like these, man. For the times like these, man. He had been calling out Teofimo for like 2 or 3 years now, saying, "I want you, Teofimo." Never gave him the shot. He built himself up. I respect it. I mean, he took out Catterall in his last fight to win the interim, and now right away gets a title shot at Teofimo Lopez. Thank you, Turkey, for making that happen. Or Arnold Barboza should be thanking Turkey for letting that happen. But yes, now Teofimo is added to the list, and now we have what seems to be a mega event brewing up in New York.
Turkey just knows how to do these. He just knows how to do this. He's a natural. Everyone, some of the haters be like, "Oh, he just got into the sport." Yeah, he'd be doing it better than every other promoter. He'd be giving our money's worth and all these great fights. This is a fantastic card already, and we only have 3 fights announced. Yeah. And it's also in Times Square. So, I mean, how is that even going to work? I don't know. But Turkey's going to find a way. He's going to find a way. So, I'm super happy. This whole fight card is going to be amazing. Obviously, the main event and the co-main event, Ryan Garcia is supposed to win, and Devin Haney is supposed to win as well. So, we can get the mega fight, the rematch between those two later in the year. And for Teofimo Lopez, I think he's gonna whoop the shit out of Arnold Barboza. I'm gonna be honest with you. So,
well, I'll be honest. They're both all these 3 fighters. Devin Haney, Ryan, and Teofimo are coming off from long layoffs. Devin Haney still trying to recover from the ass whooping. Ryan Garcia from his suspension, and Teofimo from his litigation battles with Top Rank. So he has not fought since I think like February or March or around this time last year. But I'll be honest, I think Teofimo Lopez has the harder opponent. Rolly Romero is catered made for Ryan Garcia. Jose Carlos Ramirez, I mean, he's not the same fighter that he was. I mean, he also lost against Arnold Barboza in his last outing. Arnold Barboza is coming off with a good string of wins, and he's a very active fighter, and he's fought multiple times already in Riyadh season. So, Teofimo Lopez does have a harder opponent in Barboza just because of the activity, and I think that's gonna actually play a role for in favor for Barboza for this fight. So Teofimo Lopez, out of all the other fighters there, he has the tougher fight.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if I were to put like an early parlay, I would probably put Garcia, Devin Haney, and then Barboza, because I really do believe just the recent activity for Barboza has been very good for him. He's been beating guys who are tricky. You know, Catterall is just a tricky fighter. He beat Ramirez. I mean, Ramirez isn't the same guy, but I mean, he beat him. He's doing what he's supposed to do. And this, I mean, I've seen Barboza since like, I want to say like the first time I saw Barboza fight was like the pandemic, maybe like 2020. And so I've just seen his career, just the way he's just been like, no one has really been giving him like a shot. I mean, he started from the bottom and now he's made his way up. And if I'm gonna, I just feel like his style is suited to beat Lopez. I think that's what it is.
This is downright blasphemous what you guys are saying right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. There ain't no way that Barboza is going to beat Teofimo.
Well, I didn't say he was gonna beat.
I'm saying
he's
that.
saying
I'm saying
yeah,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
No, okay, listen. It's a good point. Yeah, Barboza definitely has the momentum on his side. He has been some great performances, and he definitely deserves this title shot. You know, he's been through the ring. He's fought every single guy that they've put in front of him. He deserves it. I respect him for that. But I don't see a world in which Barboza beats Teofimo. Like, unless you're gonna give like a major advantage because Teofimo's layoff. Besides that, I mean, skill for skill, I think Teofimo is way above Arnold Barboza. It might be a tough fight because of the layoff. It might be a little bit more closer, a little bit more competitive. But I mean, Teofimo Lopez is the real deal. He's not he's not like those other 140 champions who get one title defense and then the title just switches. You know, this is a guy that's had that belt for years. I mean, 2 years maybe?
Yeah, I think like 2. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, he's a long-standing champion. He's former undisputed at 135.
No.
Hey, it was the email belt from Haney, but listen, you know, I think Teofimo beats him. Honestly, I don't think Barboza has the skills to beat Arnold Barboza or to beat Teofimo.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, of course. I think I agree with you too. Teofimo is the more skilled fighter. I think it all relies on the game plan that Team Barboza will be implementing to counteract these advantages that Lopez has. And we've talked about it before. Lopez does not look the best when it comes to fighting boxers, pure boxers. Maybe they're gonna take a page out of Jermaine Ortiz, out of Sander Martin, and Team Barboza might apply it to themselves, and you maybe utilize that for fight night against Teofimo. That's what I see most likely happening, because if he tries to go toe to toe with Teofimo, it's not going to happen. Also, Barboza doesn't fight like that. He's very cautious. He's always just trying to jab you, work and just try to box you most of the time. And he's not a guy who was crazy power, but he is an undefeated fighter and a very active fighter. And I think those are going to play a big factor for him on fight night.
Yeah, I mean, if he's smart, that's what he'll do. You know, he'll take that blueprint, because I think there is a clear blueprint for Teofimo, but I don't see Barboza doing. He might try to do that, but I don't see him excelling at it. I don't see him pulling it off. I just don't see that. So I think Teofimo definitely he can pull out illicit a firefight from Barboza, because Barboza has been, sometimes he can start throwing a couple of punches, and I don't think he's a purist boxer like that. So I'm still favoring Teofimo.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're gonna get our answer in May once the card starts. Once Turkey starts dropping more names for the card. So it should be a big, huge spectacle. The first fight in Times Square, like you said. How the fuck are we gonna get this rolling? How's it gonna happen? Where's the ring gonna be? Like, where the fighters gonna come out? Where's the locker room? Stuff like that. Yeah, they're gonna be doing rapping right there in the public, dude.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, it's because Turkey's kind of using it also to kind of promote his video game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
or the video game that they're coming out with or something like that. I don't remember what
I think
What is
it's
it? Fatal Fury.
Fatal Fury. Yeah. I believe he's like a co-founder or something like that. He's like invested in it, I believe. So,
and I think they're just using that kind of to give that whole like the aesthetic, fighting in Times Square with all the billboards. It's gonna be a crazy scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the scenery is gonna be crazy. And then also, I'm questioning also because they said it's free for the public. What do you mean by that?
Wait, he said that?
Yeah, and even Ryan tweeted it out yesterday saying, "Oh, it's free." And then someone said, "Yo, Ryan, can you give me tickets for the fight?" And he's like, "Bro, just pull up to New York."
Hey, bro, we gotta go.
well,
Bro, we gotta go, man. I swear to God.
I mean, if it's free, because that's what I was saying. Times Square is just a public place. Like, how is Turkey just gonna take a loss on this event? Like, what?
The pay-per-view, I mean, it'd be pay-per-view like $25, and that's where he's gonna make the money. But bro, how are you gonna manage the crowd? Because if it's free, bro, oh my dude, they're gonna use the billboards for the fight, like the camera, like the jumbotron. And then bro,
They're gonna be streaming it. But then, bro, listen. I mean, we got some crazy people in New York, bro. You know what I'm saying?
My issue is like the crowd control. Like, how are they gonna manage that? Because if it's free, everyone's gonna it's gonna be like the hottest spot to be in on fight night. So I'm very interested to see how they're gonna proceed with like the safety precautions.
Well, all we have to do is just believe in Turkey.
Turkey will make it happen. He's got the money.
He'll make it
splash
happen.
out.
Yeah.
Give the security some money. But yeah, it's gonna be a very crazy event. Definitely never done before. History is gonna be made on May 2nd, I believe, or 9th. So yeah, we have the return of 3 megastars in boxing. Waiting for their time to shine in Times Square in New York later this year. I think we covered everything we wanted to talk about this episode. Let us know down below. Are you guys excited about this Times Square event, Rehab season accompanied? Also, let us know about the Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach scorecards. Do you agree with it? Do you think that Lamont Roach was robbed off a victory? Also, let us know about the knockdown. Was it a knockdown? Was it not? Should have been counted. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. We're on X, TikTok, and Twitter. Wait, no, that's the same one. Wait, we are X, TikTok,
Instagram.
Oh my, I was like, what's the last one? Also, don't forget to join our Discord. We're trying to build up a community on there, and you guys joining the server would be greatly appreciated. But this was Pablo, and I was Rulo and Asa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.